This guy, Alex Honnold, climbs thousands of feet without a rope. One mistake, he dies. And what's interesting is that it's not that he's brave, it's that most people would fall apart before the climb even starts.
We are live. Welcome back to the On 3 podcast, everyone. I got myself, once again, Salvi, Saul Goodman, whatever you want to call me. And you got Nav, not the rapper, Naveed, whatever you want to call him.
Man, you just keep adding these nicknames. And you know what's funny? I don't even know when you edit this nickname. Like, we just started on like, shit, my name's this? Come on.
Yeah, you're Nav, not the rapper, but we'll play around with the nicknames a bit. But
how about I just get onto the other production side of things? But who knows? Oh, man.
But what we're talking about today, I don't know if you watched the documentary.
What do you mean if I watched the documentary? I think everybody watched that documentary, bro. Holy, Alex Honnold.
It was Alex Honnold, one of the craziest things I've seen.
So this episode is about why fear eliminates almost everyone from performing at their highest level and why most of that pressure we train for isn't actually, well, real.
So the reason we wanted to talk about this is, I don't know if you watched Free Solo ever.
I've been trying to get a hold of it, but freaking YouTube's like $3.90 rent or buy. I'm like, come on, man.
So we did a hike in Yosemite, which was...
Talk about relatable. The dome that we wanted to do, actually.
We didn't do the full dome hike. We didn't go all the way up.
80%.
But we did 80% of the way there. And like, even just hiking up that, we were dead by the end. We were like...
Yeah.
We had no energy left, nothing. And here's this guy, I think in Free Solo, he climbed from the steep end of El Capitan and climbed all the way to the top without any ropes, without any gear, without any parachute to brace his fall. And he climbed that whole thing with just his bare hands. And that is just a thought of that. Like when you're all the way up there, up any mountain, you look down and the feeling you feel, which is like, holy shit, this is high. And to do that, just to climb that on like a steep vertical angle with nothing but your bare hands, that takes a whole other level of crazy motherfucker to achieve that.
Exactly. And on top of that, he's like, hey, might as well get this on recording and make a documentary out of it. Fun fact, I think it was got nominated for an Oscar. Still trying to get a hold of it. But yeah, like you talk about that. Like, I think in the last, let's say, give or take 10 to 15 years, with everything being able to stream live and all that stuff, I think this might be the greatest feat from like a physical capability standpoint that a human has done.
Yeah.
I'd argue that.
And well, the feat that we're talking about now so that was a Free Solo documentary. From there, most recently, which was, I think like last week, he climbed Taipei 101, which is the landmark skyscraper in Taipei, Taiwan.
Yeah, 11th tallest building in the world.
11th tallest building in the world. And he climbed that, once again, with his bare hands from the side of the building all the way to the top. No gear, nothing. Like, have you ever climbed a building before? I don't think so.
Look, I mean, and you know that term monkeying around? Yes. Well, that's the extent of it. But it's still, the thing is, when you get to the second or third floor and you look down, shit, there's that level of fear that kicks in, right? This guy also has fear. Alex Honnold, he is human. You can't say he does not have fear. It's just the way he interprets fear is very fucking different than how I think a normal person like myself.
I mean, absolutely. But okay, that's a good question though. So what makes you say he has fear? Because I don't know, like I know I have fear and I don't think I would ever think of climbing up the side of the 7th tallest building in the world.
Yeah, very simple. Like if I were to ask you, what's one thing you fear? Like you can ask me and I can tell you right away.
What's one thing I fear or you fear?
You fear. I'm going to let you go first and then I'll go. Just quick one-word answer.
Do I fear anything? I don't know.
Holy shit, motherfucker. Yo, okay, you know what? Let me go first. I fucking hate reptiles.
I do fear.
No, you don't. You're just like freaking Tom Cruise, bro.
No, I do fear insects, bro. I have a thing for
insects? Okay, see? Yeah, look, we're on a common ground. Insects for you, reptiles for me.
Yeah.
I genuinely fear that. Right? There is a point where Alex, to whatever adventure that he's doing in the world of rock climbing or free soloing, he recognizes there is an element of fear. Like, I think at a very basic fundamental level, fear is basically your body telling you, hey, it's a signal. That's what I like to think fear is. But now how an individual now interprets that signal I think that's where things have this huge spectrum. You either like bang on address it like him, or like, you just lock in and interpret it in a different way, or you just like me with reptiles and like, fuck no, right?
Yeah. I always wonder what creates that spectrum. Like why is it that some people feel more fear versus others who are just fearless? And is it like we're just born this way, or is there something else that leads to you having less fear?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think about it. I'm like, if if there's two people, one me and another person, and let's say it's like the basic example of we see a reptile, right? To a certain extent, there will be a level of quote unquote a fear of that reptile, right?
Yeah.
And then thereafter, my mind will decide whether to keep going or to stop. I think that's where like the differentiation kicks in. It's like, it's not a question of whether the fear is absent. It's a question of like their interpretation of the fear, right? I think when people say they're fearless, like it would be like illogical to say like the fear is just absent. Like how
I
could
think
that be?
so. I think people who don't feel fear, it's not that they're not feeling fear. I think it's just the preparation that goes into it. If you have practiced or been in that same situation multiple times in your life, then even if the situation itself demands fear, and even if, let's say, you feel fear, you don't feel as anxious because you can conquer it. You've been in that situation before, you've dealt with it before, you've practiced it thousands of times, so you can conquer it. So I guess the real thing is fear is one thing, anxiety is a whole other thing. Like fear
Bang.
causes anxiety in most people, but fear with preparation leads to less and less anxiety, to the point where, I guess a little bit of stress or anxiety is good for you to improve your performance to get to a certain level. But if that anxiety becomes too much, that's when you don't perform as well. And so I think
Exactly.
the people who have put in that time to practice to be in that situation, like Alex Honnold, for example, like when he was climbing Taipei 101, like just imagine how many years worth of preparation he had that went into that.
I
And this
swear.
man's been. Have you ever been rock climbing, by the way?
Yeah, there was actually one up in Markham, like the indoor rock climbing thing, obviously with the safety and harness and
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
stuff and something to fall on.
yeah. Or bouldering, same thing. You got something to fall on. Like I went there a few times, and my God, I couldn't even pick myself up probably like 6 feet off the ground, and I kept falling, especially when it came to like bouldering. Like rock climbing is easier. You have a harness, so you have a bit more of a safety net. But when you go to bouldering, and like there are these different classes, and some of them have like an overhang, especially the ones with overhangs, the amount of upper body strength you need, and especially someone who has who's a bit more like
Nope.
heavier at the bottom. I have some thick thighs, is what I can say. There's certain things that weigh me down at the bottom.
But you're so right about that. Like people when they're performing something that's deemed like extraordinary, like the amount of repetition and preparation that they have done. For example, Alex, an old guy, I swear like half the documentary, like they kept going into like, the picture in picture where they're showing like, I guess behind the scenes, how much preparation this guy was doing, like thinking about it, mentally preparing for like, okay, this is the route that I'm going to take. What can I anticipate? And then replicating those exact quote unquote motions with like exercises so that he can deal with any uncertainty and ambiguity that comes with the thought process of conquering that feat.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the preparation side. But I think, and he's put in all the preparation in the world to be able to do what he's doing. But to a certain level, you do also have to be a psycho, right? Like it's not normal, like for you to just feel like you want to climb the tallest building in the world and actually pull that off.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so apparently there was this study they did on Alex. Um and based on this, like it was something along the lines of, they showed them like scary images or whatever to a bunch of people. The control group showed significant activation of whatever fear response in your brain, while Alex Honnold, showing when he was shown the same pictures, he barely showed any response. So that still goes to show that he maybe doesn't feel as much fear as some other people feel. um but at the same time, I do wonder if it's because like he's been through so much crazy shit that some pictures won't scare him.
Yeah. I think it's just that like level of tolerance and capacity. You brought up a good point before this, which was like anxiety. and fear, right? And how it's a byproduct and how it correlates. But there's this third concept of, well, danger, anxiety and danger, and like, what's the difference? I feel they have like the same response, but they like require different actions, right? Like danger is like, it's imminent, it's there, whereas anxiety is a perception of a given fear, right? So I think for him, or like really any person that conquers like these extreme circumstances, they just, I think when they get to like the edge or the brink of whatever they're doing, they see more of actually they see less danger, really. Like they're able to get to that point. I think most people, when it comes to that concept of fear, like, do you think that most people quit at the edge or they quit way before?
That's the thing. I think most people quit way before they've even got to the point where they actually have to face that fear, right?
Exactly.
It's what we call, like, you know, in anything, like, let's say, for example, fear of failure. Before you start a venture, whatever, like start a podcast, go ask a girl out, whatever it is, before you've even got to that point, a lot of times you don't even do it because you're scared of what the consequence will be. So you'd never even put yourself in the position to actually do that thing to see if that consequence actually ever comes true.
Exactly, because it is very rare where like you get on the cusp of any decision or action in a particular moment in time and you call it quits. Usually, as you attribute it to, most people call it quit way before like they made that decision.
Yeah.
So even when they get to the cusp, like that's what was going to happen, right?
Or they call it quits and never get to the cusp, right?
That too. Yeah.
You never even get to the cusp to see what you're capable of. Like, let me ask you this: what's a situation where you faced fear?
Bro, I literally turned the ball over last game. I'm like, fuck, holy shit. That thing was in slow motion too.
For context, we had a Brody game, 2 points.
Yes, we did.
Down 2 points. Naveed had the ball on a fast break, had a chance to tie it, and he choked so hard. I don't know what to say.
Oh my God. God damn.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh,
it happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us.
I guess we'll find out next week. But like, yeah, at a very basic level, like, yeah, like very on in my professional career, like I fear the concept of an interview, especially when like it was like a group interview, right? You know, you've all been through it at the beginning of your professional career where it's like, oh my God, I need to have my story set straight, my examples for this and this and that. And yeah, there's a level of preparation for that, but it's like, oh, what if they ask me something I don't know? Like I already defaulted to that fear of like, oh, what if they ask me something I don't know? What am I going to do? As opposed to like, yeah, they will. That could very well happen, and most likely it does. But it's like you can have a different perspective on it, as opposed to what am I going to do, and be like, as opposed to saying what am I going to do, you could say something like, well, I'll be ready.
Yeah, I mean, bro, the number of times I've had interviews where the day of the interview or like 2 days before the interview, I'm like, oh, I'm going to reschedule this because I just don't feel ready, right? And that's the fear talking. And I did end up rescheduling it, and for better or worse, I like it. You've already put yourself down in a way by rescheduling it due to fear of not being ready, because I already practiced as much as I could. That's as ready as I would have been, but just the fear of doing the actual interview made me reschedule. And if you're already in that mindset, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So, and that's for interviews, but you know, like in other situations, like where you're having to perform, let's say, right? Perform at a wedding, right?
You've done that
in front of a crowd, right? That you always have that anxiety, that fear. But let's say you had the fear, you had so much fear that you never even wanted to do it. So you almost deprive yourself of the opportunity to do that performance and have that experience in your life. And again, once again, because of fear. And I'm not minimizing fear. Like fear genuinely does cause a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. And that's the thing, when fear leads to anxiety as opposed to it leading you to better prepare for that situation, that's when you aren't setting yourself up for success. That's when you're almost like selling yourself short, because I think in life, whenever you face fear, you can always prepare and prepare enough to overcome that fear. But the moment you let fear dictate whether you even go through with that endeavor or not, and you avoid it, that's when you've kind of let yourself down.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. The concept of performance, right? There's inherently fear with you and that particular thing or whatever it is, right? And then there's the other element, which is, you know, external things pertaining to when you have something that's really on the line, like something real, not simulated or anything like that. For example, with Alex, the biggest thing at stake for him was one miscalculated step and, well, death. It's an irreversible consequence of whatever feat that he's doing, right? And I think that's what made that, not one, but I think that's one of one of the main reasons that made him be in that mindset of locking in and conquering defeat, because he positioned himself in a way where he knows that there is no like plan B.
Yeah.
It's just him.
And I think that's the thing. Like, once you've put yourself on the cusp, now you have no choice but to just face it. And in Alex's case, you either face it or you fall to your death. So
correct. But I think you have to position yourself like mentally to be like, there is no undo button, there is no adrenaline crowd, and there is no external validation. It's just you and whatever it is that you're doing.
Exactly. And I think it's when you actually start thinking about it, like we talked about the immigrant grit, right? And a few episodes ago, a lot of it, if you think about it, it's kind of that same concept. You've put yourself in this new country, completely new. Now you got to build a life for yourself, and you either do it or you crash and burn, and your family crashes and burns. So you almost have to do it to survive, and do it for like, there's no fear at that point. You can't afford fear and anxiety. You're just going to do the work, and you just got to succeed at any cost.
Yeah, because your brain is essentially behaving differently, because there is no explanation for you to not be able to do that thing, because everything's at stake now. Whereas if you knew you had like sort of quote unquote like a safety net to fall on or whatever aspect, right? Then, I think your brain would behave differently in that regard.
Yeah. So what are your actual thoughts on it? Because I have seen a lot of people say that's actually a dumb way to go about it. People say, oh no, you should always have a safety net. And then you branch off of that, knowing that you have a safety net to fall back on. But I am actually of the belief that you just go all in. Either you are all in or you're not. And as soon as you remove the safety net, that's the only time when you can 100% be focused on this one thing. Like, for example, like for people who want to pursue entrepreneurship, one of the advices people give is that you never want to quit your job and start a business. You want to have your job. You want to start a business on the side. And once it grows enough to the point where it can replace your income, that's when you go full time. But there are other people who are like, if I was working on a job and doing this on the side, I would never be focused enough to actually make it successful. So the only way for me to make my business successful was to go all in and not to give myself that safety net. And psychologically, I do get that second point, which is like, now that you are all in, maybe it's not the most practical path, but psychologically, if you're all in on something, you have no choice but to succeed. Because if you don't, you are derailing your life, your livelihood, whatever it is. So that hunger, that drive, that stress pushes you to a point where you can succeed. Obviously, a lot of times it can push you beyond that to the point where, you might start panicking, and you have anxiety just overtakes you, and then you're not performing as well. But it's just about finding that point where you can let fear and anxiety drive you to a point where it's improving your performance as opposed to impeding it.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the spot. I think it's like, it's a balance. And I think if you want to have that approach, the latter approach, which is like go all in and think about no safety net and give it your all, I think it really depends on whatever thing that you're wanting to do, like how intense is it and how much it means to you, right? If it means the world to you, then ideally your resources, energy, and time should pick that. And you should not have the concept of a safety net in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, some of the most successful people, they didn't give themselves a safety net. Whatever it is, whether it come, like, for example, NBA players, right? All they knew was basketball from when they were kids. And that's, to be an NBA player, you got to be like the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1%, right? Like, in terms of like a talent wise. And that's the only way you get to the NBA. And even once you're there, like, to be the best of the best in the NBA, that's like an even lower probability that you'll ever get to that point. Exactly. But unless you've told yourself that you're capable of getting there and you put all your eggs in that basket, you'll never get there regardless. So for every NBA player, there's probably thousands of prospects who never made it and had to find other options. But the ones who do make it, these are guys who have made it their life's mission to make it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Well, in the context of, let's say, sports, for example, why do you think so many people look great in like practice, but that they kind of disappear in performance?
Probably, again, that anxiety, the confidence in yourself, right? Like, for us too, we play pickup. It's a lot easier than playing in like an organized game that actually counts for something.
Yeah. And then you think about, there's this label that was put on LeBron back in the day when he first joined Miami. I think it was the first year, and then he choked, right, against Dallas. It's funny how the label of choking was just bestowed upon him when his entire career he's been in the clutch.
But I mean, he did though. That first year, the first year against the Mavs.
What do you think attributed to him quote unquote choking. I think it was the expectation to win it all, right? They had to.
It was, yeah, they had to win it all. And LeBron kind of put himself in a villain role at that time because of, the decision. And the whole world was weighing in on him. And yeah, I mean, to a certain point, even LeBron cracks under pressure, right? And it's a level of pressure that I don't think you and I are ever going to feel when the whole world is rooting for you to fail. But guess what? That experience led to him winning 4 titles. Because if he hadn't failed that one time, he wouldn't have known the very next year when KD and Harden and Russ beat him in game 1, or like when he was down against the Celtics the round before that, to actually take it up a level. Because I feel like because he quote unquote choked the year before, he knew how to handle that better because he had been in that situation before. And next year he came back and was clutch all throughout and been clutch ever since. Same with Steph, 2016, when he got the reputation of being a choker. He wasn't. He was injured. Either way, that experience of failure, I think, made him even more clutch than he ever was because he's like, I'll never fail as hard as I did at that time. No matter what I do, I've always felt a level of fear and pressure that nothing else is probably ever going to come close to. So anything else I can handle.
So you are of the belief that pressure actually does improve performance, or do you think it just reveals it?
I think pressure improves performance if you don't let that, like fear, if you don't let that anxiety overtake you. Like pressure builds anxiety, right? Okay. And I think a certain level of anxiety is good because a certain level of anxiety does make you perform better. Because if you weren't, like, let's say back in school, if you weren't anxious about doing bad in the exam, you wouldn't push yourself to study as hard, right? So certain amount of it is good. But if that anxiety, you've taken it to the exam hall and now you can't even write or you can't even think straight during the exam because you're still just anxious about getting it wrong, that's when you're not performing as well. So I think it's like certain with as anxiety increases, your performance gets better and better. But once it increases beyond a certain point, that's when it starts going back down. And you just can't let that downward spiral happen.
Exactly. You got to get it to that optimal point where it's still driving you, right?
Exactly. And we've all felt that. We've all felt that point where now you feel that anxiety overtaking you, whether it's during an important presentation at work, whether it's, as I said, during exam, during a playoff game in a league, whether you have to do some public speaking, you got to talk to a girl, right? You sometimes see that nerves just overtaking you.
Oh my God.
Have you felt that or not? Tell me.
Yeah, all of the above. All of the above.
And so how do you deal with it when that happens?
Now, looking back on it now, you're so right about that point where anxiety will kick in if you fear something. If you're able to control the level of anxiety, put it into perspective and position in a way where it propels you forward, you're butter. If you let it control you, that's where you'll see your demise in a particular point in time. That has happened. So I think still at the step 1, which is being self-aware of the fact that that curve exists. All right.
Yeah. And I wonder how you deal with, like, because inevitably we all come into situations where we can feel ourselves going over that edge. And what I've actually very recently, I was doing this one presentation and for whatever reason, my nerves started kicking in and I could feel my heart rate rising. I could feel myself getting more breathless. And like, for me, what helped was I just asked someone else I just asked someone else for their input. And while they were talking, I started doing some slow breathing to just calm myself down, slow my heart down, calm my nerves down. And after about 10 seconds of that, I was good.
Damn.
But until I did that, I couldn't get that under control. So for me, breathing exercises really help when I'm in a situation where anxiety is really kicking in, I'm fearful of something, then it's just about slow down, take very slow, deep breaths, slowly breathe it out. I've always found that helps me.
So there is merit to that. Oddly enough, I think I only do that when I'm with you guys at like a shisha lounge. But
where do you think we got the practice?
Yeah. Man, I think for me, it's honestly been exposure therapy. The more I can get accustomed to being in an environment that makes me uncomfortable, that's what I've noticed that's made me propel in a direction to be more successful at it over time. Yeah. And
so let me, on a personal level, what are some fears? Like we've talked about like whatever reptiles or whatever, but actually in your life, what are some fears that you have?
Yeah, I'd say probably like not living up to my full potential, right? You have like literally you wake up every day, you make the decision to either, simplest things, eat healthy or not eat healthy, stick to your diet or not stick to your diet, go into the gym or not go into the gym, right? It's those little decisions every day that accumulate and, basically, rolls up to your day. So for me, I've gone to like the most granular level in terms of my mindset and like just, try to do what I envisioned myself to do or to be. So my biggest fear, like at a personal level, my biggest fear is just like not fulfilling the things that I told myself that I would do.
And have you been doing exposure therapy when it comes to that fear?
Not day to day, but like things that seem daunting. Yes.
How does that manifest actually? Like, what are you doing for that exposure therapy?
How do I go about it?
Yeah, when it comes to addressing that specific fear.
It's simple as like, if you're not gonna magically just be okay with it one day. There is no secret formula. The formula is you go, you face it, you learn from it, and you refine yourself. So that's sort of been the approach, like to forcefully put yourself in a position. Well, you'll feel the incompetence or whatever, the lack of fulfillment or the lack of whatever in a given position. Feel it, learn from it, and then continue to refine. And it comes down to like practice. You keep practicing. Eventually, your dues will pay off. But it's like making the executive decision to even get there. And that's where fear kicks in.
And that is what I was going to talk about. I think you have put yourself in different situations that push you out of your comfort zone, but also helps you achieve your potential. Like doing this podcast, for example. Who would have thought that high school Naveed and you would put himself in front of a camera, voice his opinions on a mic? Before this podcast, you didn't even have social media. So social media. All the shorts we post, it's all his doings. If any of them are shit, just like go talk to him. But if they're also great, that's also his doing. So the fact that you've put yourself, when I know you've always hated social media, I know you've always hated, being in public too much, but you've put yourself out of your comfort zone to be able to fulfill your potential. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't confidence. Tell them what the exact book was.
It's like basically how to talk to women, how to, how to be a man. And this
do we plug the title? No, I'm not going to plug the title.
No, I don't really remember. I've been trying to find it because I'm like, and what's funny?
It was called the Tao of Badass. If anyone wants to look it up.
Tao of Badass? Holy shit. Bro. Now I sound even more stupid. And this is coming from and the only reason I bought into it was because, at that time and point, like Saul Goodman, this guy was like performing at talent shows and like he's running for VP. Like he's my guy, like a guy's guy. And I'm like, okay, if he read this book and it changed him, why don't I take a crack at it? I finished that shit in a day, which I don't do. I don't read, which is again not a good quality, but finished it. And then I'm like just trying to apply it and just like, you can't just do this and it's just going to like reap benefits, right? Like standing with your chest out and like taking longer steps and like just talking like this. Like,
for context, that book did not help either of us land any women. All it taught me is to puff my chest out while walking. Like I don't think that's a strategy for landing women. I'm sorry. I don't know who read that book.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I read it. But long story short, the point being is, he's seen my journey. He's right about everything. Introvert, ambivert now. But yeah, like that was an actual thing. Like, but doing this podcast, for example, like I wouldn't say it necessarily conquered that fear, but it definitely addressed it.
Absolutely.
What do you think it's been for you? Like high level, let's say in the last decade or so that you have. Yeah. But that you have addressed.
I would say my fear growing up always was looking dumb. And I think that leads to a fear of failure as well. Fear of failure because you're not competent enough. I think it's a better way to put it. Fear of failure due to your competence. And so growing up, I always avoided doing things that would make me look dumb, right? Or incompetent. So if I thought that I couldn't be good at this one thing, I wouldn't even go near it. I wouldn't put the effort to learn it and that robbed me a lot in exactly that, like actually learning new things, putting in the effort, but failing, but knowing that as you put more and more effort, you're going to get better and better at it. I played basketball because I was tall. So I knew I was going to dominate right away. I was good at math. So I liked doing math. I wasn't good at English. So I hated writing. I enjoyed sciences, but I wasn't getting good marks at it. And so that's why in high school, I decided I'm going to go into business because I was getting good marks at that. And so now that I think back to it, I'm like, man, I really enjoyed sciences. Even if I wasn't scoring the highest. I should have stuck with that because that was generally what my interest was in. But the reason I didn't was that fear of looking incompetent. That, oh, instead of getting 90s in whatever business courses, I was getting 70s in science. And there was a path to getting better. There was a path to doing, because I genuinely enjoyed it so much, putting more effort in would have led to better results. But that fear of seeming incompetent is what kept me from going down that road. That's the thing. I think I don't know if I fully addressed it, but I think now I'm much more comfortable seeming dumb. Like, I don't care if I'm like the dumbest person in the room. And I don't know if that just comes with age, maturity, or whatever, where now instead of trying to seem incompetent, and maybe it's also because I guess it kind of goes into exposure therapy, where the more you, because I've had failures throughout my life over the past, since I left high school, right? And as you realize that, hey, failure is not a big deal. Being not competent at that very moment in time is also not a big deal. If you put in the effort, you do get better at it. And not only that, I think you also appreciate yourself more if you've put in the effort to get better at something that you necessarily weren't as good at before. So I think it was exposure therapy in that form, and also maturity in realizing that, hey, this fear that, as we talked about earlier in the episode, where it doesn't even let you come at the cusp. You've already quit way before you get to the cusp. So that fear of seeming incompetent led me to not take up a lot of things that I would have wanted to do back when I was growing up, which are things that I want to rectify now, where it's like, hey, if there's something that even a bit interests me, I want to try it out. Hey, I can be really dog shit at it, but I want to keep doing it. Like, I might be dog shit at podcasting, but whatever. I'm going to keep doing it until I get better.
Exactly.
So,
do you think, but that mindset of like assessing your competence and a given thing, do you think you were able to like separate your performance from like validation over time?
I think so.
For example, like look at, again, I think a theme that we've been trying to stick to with this episode, or like an example, is Alex. What that feat that he did, it was him with the condition, like the situation. There was no like scorecard, right? It was just death or make it. It wasn't like a people thing, even though people were watching. But like you could easily say, for example, him conquering El Capitan, that mountain in Yosemite, it was just him and the mountain, right? So for him, at least, there was a separation from performance, from validation, right? Like internal versus external competition, right? Do you think there's merit in like being able to separate those, to like truly see your ability in a given situation?
I think, and this is something that I think we all struggle with, right? Unless you have attained a certain level of maturity, which is, I think as humans, we always look at others for validation. No matter who you are, to a certain level, you do look at others for validation. But the moment you don't do that is the moment where I think you become, that's at the end of the day, to me, that is when you achieve your highest potential. Because when you don't look at others for validation, and when you only look at yourself to compete with yourself, be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today, then you're truly, like, you have a certain confidence about you. Your confidence doesn't come from what's in your bank account, what your title is, how many people you know, what you've achieved. Your confidence just comes from just being at peace, being you. And there's nothing more beautiful than that, I think. Because at the end of the day, only you determine what your worth is. And if you're letting other people's validation through external factors determine your worth, then you're always going to be behind, because there's always going to be someone who doesn't validate you. There's always, you could be the most famous person in the world, but you're only going to remember what that one guy said, that you ain't shit. Like, LeBron has his haters. If LeBron looked at his haters all the time, then he wouldn't see himself as a king.
Yeah.
And I think even he he feels that probably too.
Yeah. There was this, you remember that billboard in Cleveland, Ohio, where it was like, we're all witnesses to LeBron, right? You remember that billboard?
Yeah.
I think there's an argument to be said that real performance, it doesn't require or need witnesses.
No, it doesn't. It's as long as you are at peace with yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're so right. I think the presence of an audience, it like changes the objective. Again, it could be good or bad, but like it definitely does change it. And like, for example, like social media, like there's incredible amount of visibility now with anything you do, right? Whether you want that to be the case or not. But on the concept of visibility and the level of visibility that exists in our environment today, do you think visibility, it accelerates growth, or it only just delays our mastery at a given thing?
I think it delays it, because you're right. We talked about this last episode, where if you can just do something for the love of doing it and not because you need to post on social media, make it a side hustle somehow, you're only doing it for yourself, aka for no one else's validation than you yourself. That's when you know you've reached a certain level of maturity, or at a certain point, at a point in life where you could truly be at peace. only you, and by peace, I also mean that you're also doing things for yourself to keep up the, like, at the end of the day, you have to respect yourself. If you have a certain goal, if you have a certain thing you want to achieve, and you're trying to be better tomorrow than you are today, then you have to keep that promise to yourself. If you're not keeping that promise to yourself, then you're gonna feel like you let yourself down, and that's the biggest form of letdown, I think. And on the opposite on like the other side of the coin, if you can provide yourself that validation, right? Hey, I'm doing good. Where you, when you do something tomorrow that you set a goal for yourself for, and you actually achieve it, that validation that you give yourself, nothing's gonna feel stronger than that. If you can be at peace with yourself, that's when you've conquered all fear.
Damn.
No fear. There's going to be no outside fear that's going to stop you from doing something. It's purely like you, me, myself, and I, or you, yourself, and you, where you're just trying to do things, learn things, achieve your potential that you know that you can achieve. It's not someone else telling you to achieve it. It's not society telling you to achieve it. If you're happy making a certain income, if you're happy doing a certain thing, if you're happy traveling to a certain place, and you do it for yourself, that's what matters at the end of the day. That's what keeps you at peace. But now if you're starting to compare that, oh, I don't make as much as that person, I don't travel as much as that person, I don't have, I don't know, as beautiful of a girlfriend as that other person.
Exactly. To some extent, I wouldn't call it self-sabotage, but like, I don't think it's real pressure. If someone's watching, I don't think it's probably not real pressure, in my opinion. Yeah. Because again, if you have put yourself in the mindset, like I don't necessarily think that visibility always equates to propelling invisibility always equates to competence, you know? And I'd beg to like ask, well, like what's harder, winning in public or improving in private, right?
Improving in private, 100%. Like Alex, taking back to Alex Honnold, before he ever did the Taipei 101 challenge, he's been doing free soloing for way longer by himself. And watching the documentary, you also got the feeling that even though he was surrounded by so many people cheering him on, when he was actually doing the climb, it was just him and his mind. There was nothing going on. All he looked at was a challenge and how he can grab onto the next steel bar, right? And there was no one telling. Yeah, go ahead.
No, he said it himself. He's like, hey, I just needed a permit and I wanted to do this thing for the longest time. It's just like Netflix happened to make a production out of it. And like, there was actually a story itself. They're like, they paid him next to nothing, you know? So it's like, it was just him and that thing to begin with. He just needed a permit.
Exactly.
Just people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He set that goal up for himself. That there was no one telling him that he needs to climb this building in order to be the best free soloer in the world. But he set it for himself, and that's a challenge he gave to himself that he wanted to execute and achieve. And it's like it's similar. Like we talked about doing the marathon. Again, we talked about last episode. Like it's actually really funny how a lot of the things we talked about last episode also apply here. Like we talked about doing the marathon, and a lot of it is also like we made a promise to ourselves to do this thing. We're not doing it for other people's validation. We just want to do it to show ourselves that we can do it. There's obviously the fear of, oh shit, we've never ran 42 kilometers in our life. I've never ran more than 5 kilometers in my life. So it's like 10x that. But guess what? If we have the preparation for it, if we train over the next however many months to prepare for it, when you actually get to it, when you actually get to the cusp, that fear won't be stopping you anymore because you know you've prepared for it.
Yeah. We're not trying to pretend that either of us are even at the same mental level as Alex Honnold, right?
Oh, hell
but
no.
we're using we're using his scenario and what he did as an example to actually go back down to the basics of like this can easily transfer at a fundamental level to quote unquote normal people, right? The concept of readiness, right? Actually putting yourself or having exposure to actual real stakes, understanding what is actually pressure, real pressure versus fake pressure, what's in your control and not in your control. And most of all, like I'd say like being brutally honest with yourself about like where you are and your level of readiness in relation to a thing. And all those things will come back to you. For example, you know, where you are in relation to a given fear, what that fear is interpreted as, and your level of anxiety to it.
Yeah. I think most people avoid real performance because it removes excuses. Like you can always say that, hey, I could have done that if I only had the chance. But it's more likely that you never even put yourself in that position because you don't want to face the reality of having that in the balance. That can you actually do it or not? Actually going through with that performance. So yeah, most people never actually, yes, So most people never actually put themselves in a position to deal with real pressure, real performance. Because at the end of the day, real stakes force you to come face to face with your identity, and that can be terrifying, but also can be freeing. That there's this one thing now. You have all the pressure in the world, but you've prepared to get to this point, and even if you fail at that, I think the fact that you put yourself there to face that challenge, to face that pressure, you're gonna be back again. And if you don't fail, then great, you don't fail. But if you fail, you're gonna be back. Well, unless you do what Alex Honnold did, then I guess you won't be back.
Yeah, you're right about that concept of excuses. I think some part of it pertains to me as well. I don't think necessarily like people like lack the motivation when it comes to like doing a given thing. I think they just need like fewer places to hide, as in like not come up with the excuse of, oh, what if, or could have, should have, would have,
Yeah.
It's less of that. Yeah, it's really just less of that. And inherently, when you have less of that, like you will have by default the energy, time, resources, and motivation to conquer whatever it is that you're wanting to conquer.
Yeah. The scariest part of real performance isn't failure. It's finding out exactly who you are when nothing is protecting you.
Damn.
And that is scary. And that's the reason people don't undertake a lot of the things that they've set out to. They don't achieve the goals that they've set out to because they don't want to find out whether they're capable or not.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's been holding me back for a long time, that finding out that I'm not capable, I think. But hey, guess what? It's about time I face that fear.
So you're basically saying in some contexts, it's harder to find out where you actually stand as opposed to getting better.
I think once you've found out where you actually stand, you will get better.
You will get better. Exactly.
Yeah. Most people don't even get to that point because they don't want to find out if they are at that point or not.
Yeah.
And that's a real fear. But hey, I think hopefully with this, we can motivate some people to face their fear. We can motivate each other to face our fear. And hopefully you actually go and sign up for the fucking marathon that we've been talking about for a month.
Bro, it's 2 episodes in. At this point, it's like, how do I not? I'm going to get trashed on if I talk about it one more time, if it's brought up one more time.
Yeah, exactly. So you've committed. Hey. We're going to do it. We're going to face our fears and we're going to prepare for it. And we're going to achieve a good time.
Yes, we will. Hey, one last thing before we go. We got to give this guy his credit and his dues where it belongs, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. I will say this is the greatest, like it's the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time feat that a human has ever done physically.
Alex Honnold?
You can't talk to me about something, and talk to me about something someone did that's not recorded. That don't count. It has to be. If
it ain't recorded, it didn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there, and I think it's really, watching the documentary, it definitely inspired me to just, hey, don't let fear stop you from doing what you want to do, doing what you need to do in life. Don't let fear be the reason you don't actually follow through with something. You just got to face your fear and jump on that building.
I said one last point. Well, one last point. Okay, did a bit of digging. This may be very controversial or not. So he has a partner or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
She waving to him at the 16th floor. Hey, babe. Hey, make sure you don't fall. Right? Like she's stressed, but she's good because she knows. Would this equation change if he had kids?
He does have a kid. He has a daughter.
He has a daughter?
Yeah. He has a kid. But you know what he said to that though? You know what he said regarding that? His like, even before I had a kid, it's not like I want to die anymore. So it doesn't change for me.
Oh shit! Fact check.
The goal is still to not die. 2 daughters. There you go. So he was like, yo, before I had kids, it's not like I wanted to die anymore. So the goal still doesn't change. I still don't want to die.
That's a real G. Kudos to him, man.
Yeah. And with that, Alex Honnold, great job. Naveed, Nabnod the rapper, great job on this episode.
Yeah, you too, Saul Goodman.
On 3, we out.